Hello, hello. Y'all hang on just a minute. I'm trying to get this on some of these other sites here. And I will be right with you. Let's see, Germantown. Okay, I think I'm good. There we go. Hello, hello. How's everybody doing out there? I'm gonna wait a few minutes to let people get on here because yesterday we had about 60 just watching me practice. So I won't be able to say hi to everybody, but I see right now we got about 12 folks there, and I'm gonna keep it going. Hope y'all are doing well. Everybody doing okay? I can't see y'all, of course, but anyway, I really appreciate the interest in this. I know everyone's bored out of their mind when you know you got 60 people that are just watching me practice. So, but hopefully once we get some folks on here, I'm going to get it rolling. But appreciate y'all coming in. Let's see. I see we got Larry, Richard, and my friend Lisa, and old buddy Bruce, Gloria Jean, Jimmy Dickey. Hello, Leah Johnson. Hey, Bruce. Good to see you. Miss Kim. So y'all are hopefully all staying well out there. I know this is crazy. Hey, there's my attorney friend Phillip Walker from Bartlett who answered some of these questions on trust. He's on here and may need to clarify some things here in a little bit. But hey, Mark, you all the way down in Florida. Good to see you join us. Mark, I'm wondering about Olivia. For those of you that don't know, Mark Colt's daughter Olivia is on a TV show that does very well, Cloak and Dagger, and it's really a good show. But hey, Hugh. So well, let me first start, and I'll say this a few times throughout here because, like I said, we're going to go as long as it takes me to answer questions. But most of y'all know I was probate court clerk for 16 years, 1994 to 2010. Should have run again, but I didn't. Hindsight is 2020. But anyway, so by the way, is anyone on the Bartlett site watching so I can make sure that it's saved or shared over there? Let me know if you're on the Bartlett or Germantown or any of those. Hey, Dusty. But anyway, so ever since I left, hey, Gail, ever since I left probate, I've continued to get questions from people who unfortunately lost a loved one and they don't know what to do. They've, got a car or they've got a bank account or they got a house. And so there's a lot of myths out there. And so, good, Bartlett's here. Okay, great. So anyway, I love helping people. And of course, I was on the county commission and, but I continued to get questions because people knew I had the background. I was a working clerk and was honored to serve the community. So anyway, but recently I was hired by y'all. Some of y'all know Brent Taylor, my buddy that was on the city council, and he served on the county commission with us for a couple of years. A lot of people didn't know that Brent is a funeral director, and he actually owns 5 funeral homes in the area, but none in Memphis. And so he is opening in May. Well, currently in the area, Hernando, Munford, and Millington is where he's got 3 close by. But anyway, he is opening one on Reddick Cove in May, and it's going to be top-notch funeral home, but it's going to be the type that the most expensive funeral would be $10,000. I know, $10,000 for the most expensive funeral. Listen, and he is the largest locally owned funeral home in the area. And we will save you thousands of dollars over the big corporate funerals homes. And anyway, so Brent hired me to do marketing, and also I'm supposed to be out setting up seminars to go talk about probate, and then we talk about pre-need funeral arrangements. But I can't do that because none of the seniors are meeting, and it's supposed to be also doing other things. So Brent hired me to do that, and also having my probate background, I think is helpful. Anyway, so just keep that in mind. And I will give a commercial every now and then because I'm trying to do two things at one time. But I'm sitting around going crazy thinking, what can I do to help people? So someone, unfortunately, had seen my post about my new job, and they, God help us, lost a loved one, was shot and killed. And they called me, and I was able to help them with funeral arrangements. But also, like I said, I get calls all the time about probate. So what I thought I would start out with, and I'm going to try, if someone can tell me, I'm going to try to, if I can't, I'm going to post it. There's a brochure that I developed when I was probate court clerk, wills in Tennessee, and I'm going to be going over that today. And I would like to try, if someone can tell me, my buddy Brian, if he gets on here. I've got the pictures, I just don't know how to share them on here. So anyway, be looking for that because I'll post this. It's got a lot of great information, and I'm going to be reading from some of that today. So I will be looking down, and you'll see this white hair. But I'm just going to go through some of the myths of probate and answer questions that y'all sent in. So first of all, what is a will? A lot of people get confused. A will is just basically where you have out what you want done with your assets and who you want them to go to if you pass away. Okay, so that's really all it is. And just to go ahead and clarify, a living will is not, someone said, what's better, a living will or a simple will? A living will is what you want done if you unfortunately go into the hospital and you can't make decisions about end of life, like if you want to be put on a resuscitator, artificial food, that type thing, artificial breathing. You tell and you give it to the hospital, your family member needs it, so that's not a regular will, okay? Thanks for all of you that are continuing to join us. Good to see y'all joining us here. But anyway, and then a lot of people think that if they don't have a will, everything goes to the state. Well, that's not true. First of all, I'm just going to read a little bit, just make sure I get it straight. But if you don't have a will, first of all, if you're married and without children, everything goes to your spouse, okay, the entire thing. Then if you're married and have children, you would have, your state would pass to your spouse and your children. But if you're unmarried and have children, your state passes to your children. Stay with me. If you're unmarried and without children, your state will pass to your parents if they survive you. Otherwise, your brothers and sisters. Ultimately, if no family member is found, it will go to the state. So that's why I do tell people how to avoid probate, but that's why if you don't have any family members, and someone asked about nieces and nephews, that's all they've got. That's why it is important to have a will to make sure that the state doesn't get it, because people may not be able to know where the nieces and nephews are. So anyway, basically, what should be included in a will? What should be included in a will is generally you appoint a person, an attorney. Phillip Walker's on here, and there may be other probate attorneys on here, but Phillip's great. He's in Bartlett, and well, he's answering a question. Someone asked if a trust can be pierced, and I didn't even know what that meant. So I'll let them read that. But anyway, you would appoint a personal representative, and then also you would just basically say how you want your property to be distributed. Okay, I mean it's whatever you want to happen with it. So anyway, that's basically, and then if you have minor children, you would appoint a guardian for your minor children. And then any other personal arrangement concerns you have, like funeral arrangements. If you want to donate $10,000 to St. Jude or to your church, make sure that's in there. If you've got any personal items that you want to make sure a child has your gun collection or your jewelry collection, say it in the will, because verbal doesn't matter. I had people would say, well, Mama told me she wanted me to have whatever. Well, it don't matter, because unfortunately Mama's not here and didn't write it down, and now you got two people fighting over it. So that's why it's very important to write these things down, get with an attorney. I was asked, is a handwritten will legal? Yes, it is. And let me be clear on this. It is legal in Tennessee, provided, hear me on this, that the document is entirely in your own handwriting and it's signed by you. That's called a holographic will. Following your death, it doesn't have to be notarized, but following your death, the authenticity of your handwriting must be proved by two individuals. So they'll bring two people into court to probate that. Hello, everybody that's still joining. So they would bring that, and they bring two witnesses that knew that was your handwriting, and that would be able to prove the will. Probate means proving the will. That's really what it means. It means proving the will. A lot of people think, hey sister, a lot of people think that they got a will, so it's like, well, it's in the will. Well, it doesn't go to court. It doesn't matter that you have a will. Okay, so anyway, let me get to some of the myths and some of y'all's questions. Thanks for y'all for joining me again. Good to have y'all on here with me. Hope y'all are all staying safe. This thing is crazy. I pray that it's over soon so we can all get back to hugging and just living our life. And if y'all need anything, I don't know that I can help you with it, but please let me know. All right, so what happens if you die without a will? Well, first of all, if you die without a will and your estate, like I said, passes to the different people we talked about earlier, and I can answer these questions later if some of y'all missed it. I'll get to how much a will costs here in just a minute. First of all, I tell everyone, one of the myths is that every will has to be probated, and that's not true. Every will does not have to be probated. My aunt died. All she had was a house. Let me back up. She had other assets, but she had listed a beneficiary on them, or she had her son's name on them, and the only thing was her house, and she didn't have to go to probate with that. And I'm sort of getting ahead of myself, but anyway, that's one of the myths, is that everyone who passes, their family has to go to probate. We'll get into more about that. Bank accounts, a lot of older people don't want their kids in their business, but let me tell you, they need to list payable upon death at the bank with that bank account, or have a child's name on there as joint owner, okay? And you can talk to your bank about how to do that, but that's one way to avoid that. Any assets you have, liquid assets, need to, like insurance and things like that, need to list the beneficiary. Because if you don't, that will have to go to probate. Okay, so, and we can get into more of that. And then also I get asked, do I have to pay bills? Someone's husband died or parent died, and they hadn't signed anything making them responsible for it. So you do not have to pay those bills, unless if you have to go to probate, then you would have to send out notice, and this will be done by the attorney, send out notice to the creditors, and then they could file a claim. But if you don't go to probate because you had access to all the assets and didn't have to go to probate, you can just write those people back and say, Mama died and here's a death certificate, and there's no money. And that's what you can do. Now, some people say, well, Mama would have wanted me to pay her bills. Well, if that makes you feel better, great, but that's your money. So just keep that in mind. And by the way, this video, from my understanding, will automatically go to these pages, and then my buddy Brian's going to help me get this linked up on YouTube, and then I'm going to put it on LinkedIn so you can share it. If you're coming in late, you can go back and watch the beginning, so on. All right, let me talk real quick. Someone called me the other day, or actually I think they were on here on Facebook, and they had everything taken care of but $4,000 in their mom's bank account. So you do not have to hire an attorney. Sorry, Phillip. You do not have to hire an attorney. You can do a small estate affidavit without an attorney up to $50,000. There are certain parameters, and things have changed a little bit since I've left, but it's up to $50,000. You don't have to have an attorney. The forms are online, but you do have to call to make an appointment. You have to call and make an appointment with the court. Things are crazy right now, but hopefully no one has to deal with this. But anyway, that's small estate affidavit. So I'm going to also want to tell you that probate also deals with conservatorships, which is where you have to appoint someone to take care of your parents if they become incapacitated mentally or physically, or it could be a special needs child or a special needs adult. Someone asked me, let me get to y'all's question. Someone asked about a home, their parents' home. What's the best way to take care of that? Well, like I said, if they have everything else taken care of with someone's name on all the other assets, they can either add that child to the home, to the deed, or if they've already passed and it was home was in both of their names, well, if one's still alive, then that spouse gets the house. But then if both of them pass, a child or children, you don't have to go to probate. You can go to the affidavit of heirship at the county registrar's office and get the forms, and they can explain the process. Basically, then you get people to swear to the fact that you are their children, and then that house becomes y'all's or yours, and then you record the deed, and then you can sell it just as if it was yours, or you can continue to live in it and that type of thing. So, but you can, if you need you can do a will. As Phillip will tell you, it's always better to write things down for sure. And Phillip's a great lawyer that can get with you and do that. But it's definitely better to have a will. But I'm just saying that if you don't, it can be taken care of outside of probate. Once again, for those of you just joining us, a living will is not a will with... a living will is what you want in the hospital if unfortunately you get incapacitated and then you're at the end of your life, and they'll ask you for it when you go into the hospital. Trust me, they'll ask your family for your living will. So anyway, real quick, what if you have no children? Cindy's asking, what if you have no children? If you're single, don't have a spouse or children, then you either need to have your parent or a sibling, and then if you don't have any of that, put my name on there. No, just kidding. But anyway, no, that's a good question, because there are people that aren't married, don't have children. But if you have a sibling, you need to decide what you want to happen with your assets. And some people may not have $5,000. Some people may have $500,000. But like I said, it's always best to get an attorney to draw up a will or to have that written down. Someone asked, is a will transferable to another state? Long story short, yes, it is. Most states will allow people to probate their will from another state if they move. So I'm not going to get ready to ask these questions. Some of these questions that I asked Phillip were detailed about trust, and I'm trying to pull that up right now. But anyway, let's see the next question. Average cost to probate a will? Well, it depends on the size of the estate. Everything depends. But the average... And since we said average, I'm going to say average is about $3,500. Court costs are not real expensive, but it's usually a percentage of the estate. But it's about $3,500 average. But if it's a very detailed, large estate, obviously it's going to be more because of a bigger percentage. So all depends, like I said, on the size of the estate. Let me see if I've answered this. So if a house together and the will does remaining have to go to probate. Again, like I said about the house again, it doesn't have to go to probate unless there are other assets that you have that did not list a beneficiary and you have to go to probate. So then you would put the house on there too. We then went over handwritten will. For those of you that have just joined us, some have already jumped off. I don't blame you, but no, I appreciate it. I appreciate y'all being here. But basically, I'm doing this because I get questions all the time and wanted to be helpful with this information. And I appreciate y'all joining me. As I told you a few minutes ago, I'm now working with Brent Taylor, former city council member. We've got a new funeral home opening in May. It's going to be great. It's over there by Bud Davis Cadillac on Poplar. Our most expensive funeral will be $10,000. And if you haven't already prearranged your funeral, that's something that once we get to where we can get together, I'd love to come sit down and talk to you about it, because number one, it's going to be cheaper to prearrange your funeral. And I'll show you this family planning guide in a minute with all the information that you have to have the day after you have a loved one that you end up having to, on the worst day of your life, you're down in funeral home planning a funeral. So anyway, but we want to be helpful with that. You know me, I'll take care of you and do all I can. Here's something. Excuse me. Power of attorney. I've had people say, well, I was mama's power of attorney, so I'm in charge. No, ma'am. No, sir. Power of attorney dies when the person dies. So just keep that in mind. Just because you were power of attorney doesn't give you any authority. Okay, now you could have been also appointed executor in a will. Okay, and but no, power of attorney is what is needed, especially for older people like me. But it's basically you can get a durable power of attorney for healthcare or financial and a general, which basically, and unfortunately we had to do this with my mom, who's as y'all know, most knows, in a nursing home, but it was just my sister as power of attorney, but we realized that was too much of a burden for her. So now all three of us, me and my two sisters, are co-powers of attorney. So any of us can handle my mom's business. So anyway, you definitely want, if your parents are older or if you're older, then make sure that you get a power of attorney. Let me see what this says. It's a long question here. I want to make sure I answer it. I can't see more. Okay, so let me just say our house is in my husband and my name, when our house to go only to our child. So I can't read the rest of that, but basically I covered that a minute ago. If the house is in y'all's name, you either draw up a will saying what you want done with the house, or you add your children to the deed. Okay, so that's basically what you do with a house. Let me see. My financial advisor is advising that we do a life insurance policy, pass down assets without tax implications. Phillip, you can look at that question and answer it, because that's not one I'm really familiar with. But I was asked about trust versus will and tax implications. Basically, the question was, does a trust make it easier to dispose of assets after death? Let me give that question or answer. And it's a long one, but it's very helpful information. Yes and no, it depends on the assets and how they are to be distributed. If you have out-of-state real property or a business, it's much easier to transfer that type of property out of a trust. It is generally easier to transfer assets from a simple revocable trust to the beneficiaries, because a trustee has the power to do so without court supervision. You can name your heirs as payable upon death beneficiaries. What else? Let me see here. Trying to make sure I get all the information. Most can avoid probate administration without a trust with some basic planning, which we've been talking about. If my husband had a will and had appointed one of our children executor on his will, can I appoint someone else's mine? I'm having trouble. It says see more, and I'm having trouble seeing more. So, Phillip, if you can read that, I'm sorry. But basically, if you're asking about in your will, Maxie, if you're saying, can you appoint someone else as executor? Yes, you can. It doesn't have to be, y'all have separate wills, and you appoint who you want to. Not a problem. Do you need a power of attorney if there's a trust set up? Well, I mean, the power of attorney is for making decisions now. Phillip, you may want to elaborate on that, but the trust is something different. But I'll let Phillip type in his answer down there. Where do you go to get your child on your house? That would be done at the registrar's office, or the county registrar's office. You can get up a new deed, and you can do quitclaim deed, which would give it to them, but you can add it, get with an attorney to do that, and then go to the registrar's office to record that. Have prearranged funeral. Can we give our home to a charity like St. Jude? If so, how does that work? Would have to go to probate. Phillip, you may want to answer that, but I'm pretty sure, obviously, that you can donate anything to St. Jude, but I think that you would need a will to make sure of that. I don't think you could just add St. Jude onto the deed. But Phillip, I'm firing all these questions back at you because some of these things have changed a little bit in my getting old and everything. Let me see this other question. I apologize for having to look at this, but hey, I want to make sure I get y'all the right information. Let's see. All right, here it is. Is it better to leave your assets for the heirs in a trust or a will? And then are the taxes for inheritance less one way or the other? So I'll answer B first. No, the current federal estate tax exemption is 11. Is this right, Phillip? What's high? $11.58 million per person. I do remember Tennessee repealed the state inheritance tax, thank God, in 2016. For most estates and trusts, there wouldn't be an estate or inheritance tax unless you get over $11.5 million. And if you do, come see me. But the more relevant concern is the tax basis of assets passing on to your heirs. Real estate, stocks, and mutual funds are capital assets, and if they are sold, the owner pays taxes on the difference in the purchase price and the sales price. I joked with Phillip and I said, you can tell you're an attorney. But anyway, it's very helpful information. Just like if the beneficiary bought it on that day, if the property increased in value over the years, let's see, the results in a tremendous tax savings to the beneficiary. Keep this in mind if you consider gifting property during your life that is appreciated. Back to the other question, it depends. If you own real estate in another state or a business, have a complicated distribution plan, or are very concerned about privacy, a trust would better serve your needs. So there are benefits, and that's why, depending on your state and everything, you do want to get with an attorney or someone like Phillip Walker, who's on here, that can help you. Let's see, this person asked, married, no children, what's the best way to draw up a will? Have lots of nieces and nephews. So I'll repeat that again. I got other people asking questions about leaving a house to a child. But yeah, first of all, you decide what you want to leave to whom, but then you got to get up your, I would definitely recommend getting with an attorney to draw up a will. If you don't have any children, and if you just got a lot of nieces and nephews and you want, if you want it divided evenly, great, but make sure you write that down and get with an attorney. So let me see if that's all the questions here. I think that's all the questions I had on that. So, all right, if a parent owns a home and a car in their name only, do you have to go to probate? No, you do not. If it's in their name only, I repeat what I said on the house and then on the car, same thing. If it's paid for and in their name only, you can do affidavits of heirship. One would be at the county clerk's office for the car, and then the house would be at the county registrar's office, okay? So, and those would be the affidavits of heirship where someone swears that you're the child and you're the rightful heir, et cetera, et cetera. And then that way you could get the house. Already entered that one. Cost to prepare a will, Phillip can tell you, but basically I know it depends on the attorney and how complicated it is. I've talked to attorneys that are $300 or $400 and some are $600, but then if you want to appoint guardian and go through that process, it's a little more. So it just depends on how complicated it is, but certainly if you want to get a will done, you can call Phillip Walker on here again and he can help you out, or if you know a probate attorney, there are a lot of great ones. Trust me, I got to know so many wonderful attorneys, and Phillip was one of them. Already got that question answered. Father never remarried, no other kids but her and her sister. And she asked, would the money be divided? Would the money be divided up, or how would it be divided up if there wasn't a will? Basically, it would be, because she was talking about the sisters been estranged, or so hadn't been around, but it would be divided evenly if there's no will. So that's why I'm telling you, it is very important. It is very important to have a will and have your wishes drawn up, because man, I've just seen so many families. It's sad what money does to people, good and bad. I've seen families fighting. I've had to hold hearings where families were arguing over assets, and just because they didn't have a will. And I ended up having to threaten to tell the judge that I recommend selling stuff of the deceased because they couldn't decide. It's like in the Bible, I forget the story, or who it was, and someone will probably correct me, but it was about, two moms wanting the baby, and I think it was maybe Moses or Solomon. Someone said, we'll just cut the baby in half. Well, I threatened to do that. I said, hey, we'll just sell this stuff and divide the money, and they worked it out. So anyway, but I've seen a lot of sad things. Number one, that's important about, we talked about prearranging your funeral. I keep mentioning that because, number one, you don't want to be down at the funeral home the day after you lose a loved one and having to come up with all these different things. And I'm getting ready to show you this planning guide because, and Linda, I'll answer that question in just a second. Hey, Lisa. But no, you have to come up with so many things the day after you lose a loved one, and you probably don't know where a lot of them are. Now, this is something that if we come out and meet with you, we'll bring you a free family planning guide, living will, and power of attorney for you to have done. And then we'll go over pre-arrangements, and then if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But this is one for the Mumford Funeral Home. let's see. And this is just something that you would do. You'd leave it to your your loved ones. But then, as you can see, vital statistics. You got to have all that information. So it's better. Don't you think it's better to fill this out while you're alive, so your kids or spouse don't have to deal with that on the worst day of their life? Here's another information for you about the importance of a will. And just think, like I said, this is the day after. Hey, George, another attorney friend of mine. All this banking information, credit cards. I mean, you could go ahead and have all this stuff filled out so your kids don't have to deal with it. Here's life insurance benefits, real estate holdings. Then there's other financial assets, any personal bequests. So, although you'd want them made into a will, but you still have them here. Look at this, Social Security information, veterans burial information, funeral instructions. How do you want your funeral handled? And also, got a cemetery memorialization. Gosh, there's just so much. Listen, people, like I said, I mean, this is stuff, and you could list for your obituary. I mean, your children will probably know all this information. So, and these are available. We will personally hand deliver those to you. We don't, because we want a chance to go over it with you and also look at that living will and talk to you about pre-arrangement and what the benefit of that is. Close friends and advisors, any organizations that you were a part of. And I mean, as you can see, so on the day after death, there are at least 49 things that your loved one has to know. Think about that. I mean, I've seen families devastated the day after a funeral. I mean, the day after their loved one dies, because they have to come in and, deal with, they've already buried their loved one, but then they come to probate court and they didn't have $20,000, which these large corporate funeral homes have. And I mean, they had to borrow money, put on credit card and all that stuff. And then they didn't have a will. And so then there's like fighting. And I mean, it's sad. It really is. Let me see the questions here. What I'm demonstrating is something that I would love to, once this is all over, personally come out and meet with you. That's what we do, because it's something we can. First of all, this is for the Mumford Funeral Home. But when I knew, let me remind y'all, because I got new people coming on here, that Brent Taylor, former city council member, hired me to be VP of marketing and also community relations. And so I'm supposed to be going out networking, of course, and telling everyone about the new funeral home that we're opening in May over on Reddit Cove, and but also setting up seminars, and that's something that I can't do right now, obviously. So that's why I'm doing this. But if you would like, we would love, once this is all over, just to come out and meet with you and your spouse, and if you're not married, they don't, obviously it's just you, and go over all this material. And wouldn't take a long time, but that way we could talk to you and show you, I mean, basically options, excuse me. And the difference is, this is something that, and I'm not going to get into all the pre-arrangement stuff, but basically you could have this thing paid off. You can pay it off over 10 years, and basically, it's like insurance, but it's insurance paying for a funeral, so it's not regular life insurance. It's actually sort of like death insurance, I guess you could call it. But the deal is, you're welcome, Glynn. The deal on this is that with prearrangement, you can pay it out over 10 years, and after 2 years of paying it, and it's probably only, depending on your age, it's probably only $150 to $180 a month. But if after 2 years you die, then it's paid off. Not like your car, where you finance it for 5 years and you die after 2 years, they're going to come get that car. Well, this, after 2 years, if you have paid up for 2 years, then boom, it's paid off. You're taken care of. And we also see people leave after a funeral, and they're sort of wondering, you think Mama liked that? Do you think we did the right thing? And Normally people are emotional and spend way too much money. I just have seen it and I know it happens. But I just, this is just information, like I said, having been probate court clerk, and I was just stupid enough to be one of those working clerks, because as the attorneys knew at first, I didn't know what I was doing. And but I learned the law, helped change the law, and trying to think, are there any other questions? I know I went through that fast because everyone that knows me knows I talk fast. I can, if there's anyone that's just joining us, I can repeat what we're talking about. But yeah, I would love to. I go out, and once we can do this again, can come to your church senior group, any group basically 50 or over, which is me now. I can come out. Well, I'll talk about probate, answer these questions. I did this 2 years ago for Brent when I was running for probate court clerk again and got my tail kicked, like we all did. But I could come out to you. I would come out and talk, and we did this. I did about 11 of them in 2018, and they love it. They just love the information. We buy a meal, provide a meal, and then Brad does the pre-arrangement stuff and answers questions. And so, let's see, Maxie, arrangement is all paid for in another location, but I don't want my funeral there. Can I move it? Yes, thank you for asking that question. By law, and Brad, if I'm wrong on this, let me know. Brad McNeil, the manager's on here for the funeral home pre-need. But yes, by law, if you buy, let's say you pre-arrange your funeral, if you buy your funeral pre-arrangements with me at the funeral home over off Poplar, is what Brett Taylor is going to own. Anyway, legally I can't say the name of it yet, but it's over on Reddit Cove behind Blue Plate Cafe, and it will be opening in May. But yes, if you move somewhere or whatever, you can have, by law, another funeral home has to go with that funeral, whatever it is. They have to give an equivalent to what you bought with us. So yes, good question. I'm glad you asked that, Maxie. Hey, Lynn, quit being funny. But yes, we're excited. I'm excited to be working with Brent. Right when I got started, this virus hit, and so I just thought, man, what can I do to share my information with people, but also let y'all know about what we're doing with the funeral home. And unfortunately, if something happens before the funeral home gets open with your family and you're not prearranged, just call me and let us save you thousands of dollars. And we can, God has blessed me. I want to help people. Y'all are wonderful. I'm excited just having y'all on here, that y'all care enough and wanted this information. I'm still looking here to see if there's any more questions. By the way, so this is the Wills in Tennessee brochure. I don't know if the new clerk is doing it. Hey, Mayor Bill Morris, how you doing, brother? I don't know if the new clerk is doing this or not, but here's what it looks like here. So anyway, this is something that you can go to their Shelby Probate. When I was there, we had it available on the website. But Sharon, yeah, my number, I'll just give you my phone number, is 901-497-6291. And you can Google Phillip Walker and Bartlett. But yeah, call me. Feel free to call me anytime. I just, like I said, I want to be available to help you. And wondering if anyone came on late and I should go back. I'm looking at the number of people. It's fluctuated between 45 and 60. So I know that means we've got some people on here. Let's see. And remember, some of the myths, every will does not have to go to probate. That was something that we talked about at the beginning. You're welcome, Gail. Good to see you on here. Yeah, every will does not have to go to probate. Once again, we mentioned that. If you have joint ownership on an asset like a bank, are payable upon death. Okay, so, and then let's see, going back to the claims, you don't have to pay bills if you don't go to probate and you didn't sign anything and your name's not on them and your husband, wife, parent dies. As long as you don't open an estate, then you can just write them a letter, send a death certificate if you want, and say, we didn't open an estate, there's no money for it. Because legally, unless you sign for something, you're not responsible for that, okay? So I just want to make sure that's clear. Phillip, is there anything else, or anyone else have any more questions? I didn't realize it's been 40 minutes, man. And like I said, this will be available. You can share it where other people can watch it, because some people ask me to do one at night. Life insurance, I recommend everyone having life insurance, especially if you have children. But yeah, life insurance, the problem with life insurance normally, as far as at least paying for a funeral, because people ask me, well, I've got life insurance, that'll take care of the funeral. Well, problem is, most life insurance companies don't let go of that money till they got a death certificate. So that's the bad thing. So and why not go ahead and lock in the cost of a funeral today, because it's going up 7% a year. Funerals rise about 7% a year. The average now, I think, Brad, you can correct me, is maybe $14,000 average. Most of these larger ones, people have told me they spent $17,000 to $20,000. And once again, our most expensive funeral at the new location is going to be $10,000. So anyway, it's just something to think about. But yeah, life insurance, I always recommend people having, especially if you have children, because I mean, you want to make sure the family's taken care of, especially if you're married. Lord have mercy, that's married and children is really important. So good question there, Lisa. So I'm available. Just call me anytime. Unfortunately, since I posted, a few weeks ago, my new job, I've had a friend whose future son-in-law was shot and killed. Had someone else who was accidentally killed. I mean, it's just, people don't want to talk about death. I understand. Right now, everyone's thinking about it, of course, because it's a virus. And I don't try to scare people. Guess what? We're all going to die unless Christ comes back first, which I really wish he would. But until then, we have to prepare. And that's what I try to help people do, is prepare. And so, anyway, just giving you that information. Call me, call Phillip, any other probate attorney. I'm not an attorney. That's why Phillip was kind enough to answer a lot of these questions about trust. And just call him. I see a question about a special needs trust done in Ohio. Is it effective here? I would think so, Phillip, because just like wills would be okay here. Anyone else have any more questions? This has been great. I hope I've covered everything that people ask. If not, if you're watching this and someone shared it and you're watching it next week, because what's today? Have y'all like me? It's like, what day is it? It's Wednesday, April 7th, is it? Or April 8th. Anyway, so if you're watching this end of April and you have questions, just call me, ask me. And then the other thing is, we're going to put this on YouTube. My friend Brian's going to help me figure that out. I'm going to put it on LinkedIn, because I know there's a lot of information out there. But if you once again, and then I'm going to let y'all go unless I see more questions pop up, because I don't want to keep y'all on here long. I just appreciate y'all staying on here with me. But once again, I'm available. We're available to come to your group once we get to do that, able to come to your group to talk about probate and pre-need and that type thing. Or if you and your spouse, or if you're not married, you would like us to come meet with y'all at once all this is over, talk about prearranged funerals and all that information, I'll do it. Once again, my phone number is 497-6291. My email address is christhomas1, that's the number 1, at bellsouth.net. Email me with questions, text me, call me, because right now I can't do anything. Hey, Carrie Rye. Carrie Rye that used to work for me? I can't see. I'm sorry. I got glasses. I still can't see. Anyway, but let's see. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, a reminder for any of y'all that just joined me, a power of attorney, because this is really something that people get confused about. A power of attorney dies when the person dies. So you were mama's power of attorney, mama's gone, well, that power of attorney's gone. So anyway, it's important to have a power of attorney, because here's the deal. If we didn't have a power of attorney for my mother, we would have had to go on to probate court to have a conservatorship done and get appointed as conservator. So that is important. Tell your parents, or if you're an older person on here, older than me, so anyway, if you're in your 70s, 80s, whatever, or your parents there, If you're not already power of attorney over them, I know people don't like to talk about it, but say, Mama, Daddy, we need to be, thank you, Brian, for doing that, because I can't type right now. We need to just say, we need to get appointed, because let me tell you, it's expensive to be appointed conservator, but it's also not necessary if you can just prepare before time. And that's the same way we were talking about with a will and having, bank accounts with payable upon death, and then or listing having a co-owner. Make sure, and here's something else that happened. If you're married and get a divorce, make sure you change the beneficiary from that life insurance policy, so that money doesn't go to them. Now, I will tell you, though, about revoking a will. I left that out because I forgot. Someone asked that question. So here's the deal. First of all, your will does not take effect until your death, so you can revoke it at any time. And then, sorry, I'm reading, what Phillip said there is good. So here's a way you can revoke your will. You can physically destroy it, not somebody else's will, your will. You can sign a document expressly revoking your will, saying that I revoked the will dated that date. You can sign another will on a later date. If you get divorced after you sign your will, the will is automatically revoked as to any provisions concerning your ex-spouse. I was talking earlier about life insurance and naming your beneficiary. If you marry and have children after signing your will, the entire will is automatically revoked. Therefore, it's important to remember that after these events occur, a new will must be drawn up. And again, a handwritten will is legal. I recommend getting an attorney, like Phillip, to help you, or any probate attorney. Just check around estate planning. But if a handwritten will, we had someone probated a napkin. Seriously, they'd been sitting at dinner. Him and his wife had been sitting. This is not a lie. I'm not making stories up. They were sitting at dinner, and they wrote out on a napkin his wishes and what he wanted to happen and where everything went. He wanted to give money to a certain charity. They were just messing around. Well, he didn't live more than 2 days. No kidding. And they had to probate that napkin. We had a page of a Bible probated. Yes, we did. So it's as long as it's all in your handwriting and you date it, and then after you die, they would bring in 2 witnesses for that. Cheryl says, my brother was the executor of my parents' will. My brother died. Do they need a new will to make the new executor now? Yes, I would suggest that for sure. But if that's the case and something happens to one of them before they get a new will drawn up, they would have to appoint someone that's called an administrator, CTA, meaning there's a will, but they're not the original person appointed executor. So because sometimes the executor didn't die, they just don't want to do it anymore. They've gotten to where they don't want to deal with it anymore. So great question though. And if you don't have a will and you have to go to probate, it's called an administration. So I've got a friend in Arlington now, and I don't know if she's on here or not, I hadn't seen, but man, her cousin tricked her grandmother into changing and doing a new will, leaving everything to him. And they are going through some nightmare stuff right now. I'm just telling you. So anyway, folks, let me remind you a couple things, and if more questions pop up, I'll answer them. But I'm trying to let y'all go I'm getting hungry. Not that any of us need to keep eating, right? Lord have mercy, I'm going to be fatter. Hey, Cousin Sam. So once again, I went to work for Brent Taylor, former city council member, great man, honest, great guy. And he has owned several funeral homes in the area, but none in Memphis. But Memphis in May, I wish we were getting to do that this year. We're opening a funeral home on Reddit Cove behind the Blue Plate. And our most expensive funeral will be $10,000, which is several $1,000s less than the corporate-owned funeral homes. I'm just telling you the truth. And then if you would like to meet with me and Brad and do pre-arrangement for your funeral so that you can lock in today's price, say it's $10,000 a day. If it goes up 7% every year, you can figure out what that would be. If you live hopefully 10 to 15 years, you still get that $10,000 when the price might be $20,000. That was quick math, which was probably not right. But anyway, we can come out and meet with y'all once this is over. Also, I've already had, like, I'd emailed churches. I've got 9 or 10 churches that said once this is over, they want us to come out and do a lunch and learn seminar. So anyway, like I said, people don't want to talk about death, but we're all going to die. And so why not get prepared for it? Because people prepare. Look, you plan for retirement, you plan for vacation, you plan for all these other things, and the only 100% sure thing that is going to happen, I know it says death and taxes, is death. And I'm just sorry, that's the way it is. So why not prepare for that? Why not take that burden off your children or off your spouse? So anyway, I'm preached long enough about that. I really appreciate all y'all joining. Share this on your page. Send it to whomever. We put my information. Hey, Ken Russell, you're late to the party, brother, but good to see you. Man, I grew up under Leewood and love you to death. And all y'all that have joined this, please call me anytime. Phillip Walker's information's on there. So you're very welcome. And God bless y'all. And seriously, you've got my information. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And I hope once this is all over, we can hug and come meet and try to help you and your family out. So anyway, for now, I'm out of here, and hope y'all all do well, and God bless you. Thanks. Hey there, Bonnie. Sorry about Richard. I heard he's very ill. Sorry about that. I'm praying for him. If I can help you in any way, let me know. Hey, Amy, you're late to the party, but I'm leaving, so thank y'all.